Well, hello, and I'm glad you're back for our second part for the Welland Canal. And hope you liked the first part, and we shall do our best to keep you entertained. Now, we tend to underestimate how large the maritime enterprise is between passengers, container ships, bulk carriers. It's huge. Now on this map you see on the Great Lakes how many ships are. This is one day during the fall. How many ships are on their way. You can see that in the Welland Canal. And then on the second picture you see how even up the St. Lawrence River and around the Great Lakes there's a large amount of traffic, and obviously look down around New York City. There's a staggering amount of ships out there. And the pink ones or the orange ones, which are their pleasure crafts or fishing vessels, and the turquoise ones are barges on the river. The orange ones are pleasure crafts, and there's a few blue ones, and there are passenger ships. You see them around New Orleans, and you can see quite a bit of pleasure crafts around Florida. And then the green ones are actually cargo vessels. You see them for mostly around New York and the I guess part of the Florida area. But anyway, it's interesting to see how many ships are out there every single day. Now you can understand why the Welland Canal is so important for the Great Lake area, because it's a lot of goods are going to come through here. And on this map here you'll see the amount of bridges there is along the Welland Canal and all the locks that are involved. Now this is the entrance into the Welland Canal on the south side. There's on Lake Erie side, and you also have, every year they have the canal festivals, and that's usually a lot of fun. There is live music and some jugglers. It's a fun way to spend the afternoon. And some people just hang out and watch the traffic go by, and when the bridges go up, once a big ship comes through. So it's a good day. It's outing, and it's a great way to spend a Sunday afternoon. Here we have a Great Lake freighter coming out of a lock. I think it's probably it's actually lock 2, I think. It might even be lock 1. Anyhow, always impressive to see them coming through. Now, if you lived in St. Catharines, you'd probably be cursing this bridge, because if the ship comes through it, of course the ship has to ride away, and the bridge gets raised up, and you just have to wait and be patient. There's actually a radio station, a channel you can listen to, and give you an update to where the status of the bridges is, so if you happen to be in a situation where you can avoid it. The other thing that always puzzled me is that, I guess, that little hut that's on top of the center of the bridge there, I guess in the olden days that's the master operator be sitting in there, and up and down he goes. And I often wonder, is this guy actually sleeping there? And but nonetheless, it's fun to watch when it goes. Now that the bridge is up, that big ship can work its way up the Welland Canal, and once it's passed, they can lower the bridge, and you'll be happy. Now here's some facts about the Welland Canal. Maximum vessel length is 740 feet. Maximum draft is 26 feet. That's actually quite deep. And the above water clearance 116 feet. I guess it's could have regulated by the bridges. And the average transit time is 11 hours. And the elevation between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie is 326 feet, and I guess that's probably about the same as, well, the Niagara Falls would be slightly less, but that would kind of coincide with the length of the height of the Niagara Falls. And here is the picture of the Edmund Fitzgerald that Gordon Lightfoot made famous, and it sank in 1975, November the 10th. I know those bridges look pretty old, and actually I came across this picture in 1930. So it looks to me those are all the original bridges, and other than just fixing cables and lubricating, just doing channel maintenance, and some of the bridges kind of look pretty rusty, but nonetheless they seem to be working. We're now at Lock 3 at the viewing area, and this is actually a nice setup there to have a nice platform. You can overlook the lock. Also, there's a museum there, explains a bit of the history. It has also a little souvenir shop, and also has some information of what's happening on the whole Welland Canal system. This is the same view, but it's actually in the winter time when the canal system shuts down. I think they close it down mid-December to mid-March. I guess it all depends what kind of winter it is, especially with reopening. If it's been a mild winter, they can open it up earlier. But in the winter time, the canal looks totally different. This area is between Lock 4 and 5, and in the summertime it looks so beautiful, idyllic. All you see is this little bridge going across, but when you look at it now, it looks pretty wild, and makes you realize that when it was originally built, they were not scared to use steel, and you wonder what happened to old tires. Well, there's a whole bunch of them hanging there on that bridge. And here is a look at the twin locks. That I guess the original idea was that ships could actually, one could be coming up, one going down to speed up the traffic. But you can see it's when you look at the size of ships, I would have thought it was deeper, but I guess they're floating on top. They might probably always have a restriction if the ships are heavily loaded, that they would have to make sure that they could still clear the bottom of the gates or the doors into the locks. Here's a lock that's now cleared out and being serviced for the winter. Here you can see how massive these doors were. Of course, there's a lot of pressure on those things, and amazing how they were able to engineer that way back then. Well, we're back in the summertime. We're looking at the northeast towards Lake Ontario, and you see the big bridge that they ended up building, I guess it was in the 60s, over the canal, because it was just too much of a problem having the lower bridge open and slowing down the traffic. But it's a busy highway nowadays. Here's another vessel that's about to be lowered, and but one of the things I found intriguing is these new lifeboats that they have now at the back of the ships. They I guess if there's disaster happening on the boat, and they all need to do get off the boat. They all climb into that vessel and release and plunge into the lake and be rescued. Looks a lot safer than those little rubber dinghies. Moving on and going underneath the high bridge on the QEW. And you can see this is a fairly new bridge that they built when they put the highway in. It's pretty conventional as it unfolds, not like the old raising bridge. Well, we made it underneath the bridge and we're heading down towards Lake Ontario. We got 2 more locks to go, and but we're on our way. This is actually a view looking back at the bridge. It's one of those bridges where it's really windy. You kind of gotta be careful. Well, we're approaching lock number 1, which also is the bridge in front of the canal. Lock is the Lakeshore Road. It's also a relatively busy road, but it's manageable, and you can see the bridge has one of the original ones with this massive concrete counterweight, and it always intrigued me how that actually they had that all calculated out, the weight of the bridge and the concrete itself. So I guess ultimately the electric motor that activates it is doesn't really have that much work to do, because the counterweight is going to take care of it. Even the Canada geese are being spooked a bit by the heavy traffic here. Well, we made it through, and bridges close up again and let the traffic flow through again. Well, we made it through the Welland Canal, and we're now at Lake Ontario level, and heading out the channel into the lake. And looks like there's a fellow on the sailboat who wants to go the other way. It's surprising. It's a decent sized boat, but it looks pretty small there next to the big ones. So we travel a bit through time, went back to history. We traveled down the Welland Canal, looked around the world a little bit from a different perspective. But then how come we ended up having to do all this? Well, you can blame it on good old Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls has a big obstacles for marine traffic, and it is what it is. We have to work our way around it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the little show, and we're working on another project, and hopefully get to see that soon.